Welcome to the Gain Service Academy Admission Podcast. In these episodes, we will explore all things related to gaining a coveted appointment to the Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, and West Point. And here are your hosts, Rob Kirkland and Trish Penrod. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Service Academy Admissions Podcast. I'm Lieutenant Colonel retired Rob Kirkland, and I'm back after a week off with Trish. Did a great job with the Merchant Marine Academy session here. I thought that was awesome. Maybe I need to retire.
Thanks so much. And no, we're glad to have you back.
Yeah, it's great. It's easier to do with three people rather than two. So, but it was great. I really learned a lot from that episode on the Merchant Marine Academy. And
so did I.
Yeah, it was tremendous. I mean, it's really so many things that were new to me, and the background of him and everything that he told us was fantastic. So congratulations on a great episode. And so we got another great person this week here is a Naval Academy graduate, class of 2020. And we're going to kind of do a deep dive here on the Naval Academy. I mean, Trish, you and I are Air Force and Army, and we don't really know too much about Navy other than, they were our rivals in sports and we're always being told to beat Navy and, things like that. But we want to learn more about, the Naval Academy and, certainly, get insiders look at this. And who we got on the podcast today is Ensign Jack Dale. It's really great to have him on here today. So, Jack, it's great to have you here. And I just wanted to just say hello and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad I could log on here and contribute a little bit to the view of the Superior Service Academy and Victor in football for 14 years straight. We're not going to talk about the outcome of the 4 years that I was there, but I'm sorry, I had to throw my own 2 cents in there. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm Ensign Jack Dale. Like you said, I graduated from the Naval Academy in 2020. Kind of a very unique year to graduate, especially with the global pandemic, but we made it through. I'm originally from Northern California. I grew up in a small town called Discovery Bay in the state of California. I graduated from Heritage High School in 2016. And my family, as soon as we figured out that that's what I wanted to pursue and move over and pursue my dreams at the Naval Academy, we all packed up and moved out east. My family lives in North Carolina now, so I claim about 80% home state of California and about 20% North Carolina as I spend more and more time there. I currently live in San Diego, California. I'm stationed on DDG 86, the USS Shoup. It's a guided missile destroyer stationed here in San Diego. And I'm loving it out here. I'm about, I'd say, 20% through my first tour here. I just adopted a couple new pets and just working through my qualifications as a Surface Warfare Officer, which is my service selection.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, San Diego, man, I love San Diego. I live up here in LA and, a little bit of ways away from you. And so, yeah, we always try to go down to San Diego and visit and do some vacationing. So definitely awesome place to be stationed. I'm always jealous of the Navy. They always get the great spots, whereas the Army sticks you out here at Fort Sill in Oklahoma or Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Well, exciting news. A quick little tidbit, if you don't mind. Just kind of a plug here for Surface Warfare Officers for our billets just reopened. Originally, this wasn't an option for second tour division officers, but if you don't want to go to Fort Sill or Louisiana, you can now go to Italy as your second tour as a Surface Warfare Officer. They opened that one back up this year. It's a pretty recent change.
It's bad in the Army when they say, when you say you're going to be stationed at Fort Polk in Louisiana, and they say, well, at least there's a Walmart an hour away.
Hey, don't knock on Wally World too much. You get all your essentials there.
All right. Yeah. Okay. See, I'm just, here I am busting on my own service here. So, Jack, so why, okay, why not West Point? Okay. Or the Air Force Academy. Okay. Why Annapolis?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you had asked me that question, I'd say at the beginning of my senior year of high school, I don't think Annapolis was fully set in my mind yet. I come from a family full of law enforcement background. My uncle was a law enforcement officer in Santa Clara for most of his young life. My dad was a 28-year veteran of the San Jose Police Department in Northern California, and originally I was thinking Coast Guard because I wanted to, kind of father-son sort of thing. My father's my role model and my hero, and I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps a little bit while still kind of doing something in the service world, the uniformed services. But I think what really swung me was, I know my love, it sounds cheesy, but my love for the ocean. I grew up on the water. I wakeboarded, water skied. I grew up ocean fishing, going out, actually just up the coast here out of the port of Long Beach, going on fishing charter trips with my grandfather. And the Coast Guard doesn't really get to go out that far in the ocean, and I love the mystery of it, and just the immense power and the leadership opportunities you have after the academy. Not many other services you get to sail on a 600-foot warship and literally take command of the seas. That just was such a big, grand idea in my young developing brain. I was like, you know what? I could go to Afghanistan with the Army. I could live in New York for a while, and West Point. It was on my radar, but I feel like it was that kind of swung me.
Did you ever apply to any of the other service academies, or was it always Annapolis?
So I went about 50% through the Coast Guard Academy application, and then decided to just kind of put all my eggs in one basket. It was a risky move, but the Naval Academy was actually the only service academy application I sent in as a complete application.
Well, congratulations! It sounds like things worked out.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did. If I could go back and do it again, I definitely would not have taken that big of a risk, but I'm glad it worked out.
Definitely.
Well, good. So tell us about your getting into Annapolis and just sort of, we have a acronym that we use called the SAL, the Scholar Athlete Leader. And we're just interested if you could kind of talk a little bit about kind of how you fit into the Scholar Athlete Leader model, and regarding the admission to the Naval Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what all of the service academies are all about, is accepting, vetting and accepting a well-rounded person. If you're the star football player or any sport, if you're the star, you're the captain for 3 out of your 4 years in high school, that's an incredible accomplishment that shouldn't be thrown to the back. But if that's all you did and nothing else, what I've learned about the admissions boards, especially in Annapolis, is they're like, okay, this person will succeed in this aspect, but how is he going to be able to even compete with our other candidates in a different field? They want the full round circle. And to be honest with you, I really think that was what secured my way in, was branching out as far as possible. I was good at a lot of things, but I wasn't really number one in any one particular thing. So, for example, for your acronym, starting with the Scholar, that was one of the things that was one of my strong suits. I think, if I remember the number correctly, I think I graduated number 30 or number 25 in my high school class of 600. So I wasn't a valedictorian, I wasn't a salutatorian, but I was up there and graduated with a 4.2 GPA. So that does help.
Very
And it's
impressive.
definitely a big check in the box. Yeah, so taking advanced placement classes. I'm not really sure what they call it on the East Coast. I think they call AP something different, but I definitely focused a lot in academics. For the athlete part, swimming was my whole passion ever since I was about 7 years old. And that was one where I wasn't as strong. I never was a team captain. I was part of the senior leadership kind of organization on the team. I would help plan our meets and our travels. And I had a few races that I was pretty competitive in at our state meet, but I never was the all-star swimmer. And I think that's what it's all about, the balance there. And then leadership. I think this one can branch out into a bunch of different directions. And I think one that really stood out for my application in particular, and like I said, what helped a lot was the community service aspect. I was in Scouts ever since I was 4 or 5 years old. I forget what age you start Tigers, Cub Scouts, but I think at the end when I put in my academy application, I had about 1,000 to 1,100 community service hours logged. I loved branching out and reaching out to the community and helping out as needed. And I don't want to step too far forward in the conversation, but particularly for the congressional interviews, that is a huge check in the box there. So yeah, just getting out in your community. It doesn't necessarily have to be scouting, but that is one of the quickest and easiest ways to get into a whole bunch of different opportunities for community service. And then other things besides community service. I also was part of our kind of. You're really testing me here, remembering back 5-6 years back into the early days of high school. But we had a leadership class and club that I was a part of. I started and founded one of the other clubs I was a part of in high school. And then I also started my own community service organization specifically for Contra Costa County in Northern California.
Well, it sounds like you had, some really good, characteristics there. I think that certainly the academies are looking for. You don't mind me asking, Jack, with your Scholar, what was your top, what was your SAT or ACT score? And I take it you took AP Calculus, the AB, your senior year.
So that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up because in my own mind, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like my application was very unique. I was actually homeschooled kindergarten through 8th grade. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to be held back as of my birthday being late in the year. And my mom realized that, hey, my son's ready for more advanced classes. She pulled me out of the public school system in kindergarten. I jumped a year or two ahead. And then when I went back into the public school system for 9th grade, they actually did not recognize any of the homeschool credits and charter kind of class credits that I had taken. So I actually was forced, even though I tested out of it, I was required by some California Board of Education thing to go all the way back to Algebra 1 as a freshman in high school. So I only went up to pre-calculus in high school. I never took a calculus class before the academy, a full one.
And what did you get on your SAT or ACT math section? Do you remember?
I do remember this. I definitely struggled with the SAT, and that's it. When I have friends from high school ask me about SAT, ACT kind of advice, my number one piece of advice for this is taking both tests. Some people just work well with one versus the other. I performed and was able to succeed much at a much higher level with the ACT versus the SAT. Mm-hmm. And I know now I think I was one of the last groups that took the old form of the SAT, the old scoring system. So I'm not even sure if my scores are relevant anymore with the new way they do it. But off the top of my head, I want to say like a 590 in math on the SAT, and then somewhere up in the 600, high 600s for one of the other sections. But the SAT, I actually scored, I think, like a 32 or a 33 on the math section. I think is it still 34 for a max score
Yeah,
on the
it's
ACT?
out of 36.
36. Okay. Yeah. So I scored much higher on the STEM fields on the ACT. And then, so I'm not sure if this is the same for all the service academies, but with the Naval Academy, they will take your best score from the test you did the best on.
Right, the super score. And so, yeah,
Exactly.
that's clearly your ACT was much better than your SAT, and that definitely, I'm sure, helped you in getting that appointment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so great. So good. So yeah, that's really good information to know, and I think it shows candidates that that are listening here is that you don't necessarily have to take AP Calc in high school as long as your SAT or ACT math score reflects the potential of being able to do well. And what I've seen at least is around a 700 math for non-recruited athlete cadets or midshipmen, which I'm assuming you fell into since you weren't recruited for swimming, or punching over that 30 for ACT math is going to make a big difference in kind of showing the academy that you can succeed in calculus at the academy. And so yeah, I mean, just my initial analysis there would be that mid 30 was something probably that really helped you a lot in getting that appointment.
That's exactly true. And I believe also another thing that kind of helped with that as well is in my personal statement that I wrote, I reflected that, and that's what service academies, that's what the military in general is about. Is if there's something that's out of place or that's doesn't necessarily have to be wrong, but something that kind of makes them raise an eyebrow, like from my example, a lack of AP calculus or any calculus class above pre-calc in high school, I kind of thought ahead and I was like, you know what, that might drop me down in the rankings a little bit in the admissions boards. So I addressed that in my personal statement, and I explained why I didn't, and then what I did to remedy that. So I took some online classes in calculus to kind of prepare that weren't able to be counted as part of my transcript, but I said, hey, I really want to be here. I've taken extra time out of school to make sure that I'm prepared to succeed here. And I think that is another thing that helped add on to the ACT score and showed them, hey, the student may not on signed paper from the Board of Education, he may not have taken calculus, but he is passionate about wanting to succeed here, and he's taken extra steps to ensure that he's ready to pursue it.
It's very interesting too, because the minimums that the service academies want to see is they do want to see that minimum pre-calc. But even with that, you met the minimum, and yet you still want above and beyond, and explained in the personal statement, which is exactly why that exists. So that's very impressive, and the initiative that it shows that you took.
Yeah, thank you. I owe a lot of that credit to not only my mom, who was a teacher and just a teacher and an awesome homeschool instructor, but also my blue and gold officer, who's been doing it for many years and has seen it before, and he kind of pointed me in the right direction, and I kind of jumped on it and took it from there.
That's fantastic. And it kind of leads us into the next question of discussing nominations and where you secured your nomination from.
Yeah. So another very interesting story. I'm not trying to make myself a special case here, but I feel like I had a very unique way of kind of clawing my way into the Naval Academy. So I applied for nominations from both my California senators and my congressional district representative, and I did not hear back at all from either of the two senators. When we sent in the applications, we had the office that they were delivered to sign for them when they were delivered by UPS, And so they did receive them. They signed for them, and I don't know what happened, if they misplaced them. We tried calling them, but I never actually heard back that they had even received them at the senator level. So that kind of leads into where I got my nomination. I was very honored to hear back from my congressman, Jerry McNerney, and set up an interview with him. And that's where I secured the nomination from.
That's fantastic. And when you went into that interview, did you wear your Eagle Scout uniform?
I actually did not. I wore a very simple suit, jacket and trousers, but I did have my Eagle Scout award pinned on my lapel.
Nice. I like it.
I kind of figured it was a good mix of not trying to be too much in either direction, but
some humility.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And you've mentioned your blue and gold officer, and it sounds like you had a really good relationship with him, and that he helped you navigate the process. How did your interview go with the blue and gold officer?
Yeah, and it went very well. I'm not going to try to hide anything here, and this is definitely not required to have this sort of relationship to get into the academy. But he was actually the scout leader of my Boy Scout troop, and a good family friend since birth. He was our next door neighbor. It just was luck of the draw on that one. So I was already comfortable talking with my blue and gold officer, Captain, I believe now Rear Admiral Select Knittel. But yeah, it's just like any interview, regardless of how long you've known the person, you just got to prepare for it. Make sure you know what you want to say, the points you want to get across, and then obviously be polite, have manners. That goes a long way. Good body language. Actually, that's one of the things I studied in my psych class at USNA was human psychology, just as an elective on the side. And that's like the first thing that anyone in interviews, job interviews, congressional nomination boards, blue and gold interviews, it's one of the first things they notice is how you dress in your body language. It's not an ender, an all encompassing, go or no go thing, but it definitely makes a huge impact on their opinion of you as a whole candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Did you practice before you went in there? Practice questions and things like that?
Yeah, I did. I didn't go over the top. I spent maybe 30 to 45 minutes the week leading up to it, just kind of bouncing conversation topics off my dad or some friends that were also applying to other service academies. And yeah, so it doesn't have to be crazy. Depending on your own comfort with just speaking and answering questions in an interview format. I would definitely recommend practicing if candidates haven't had that experience in their past, just to see where they're at. If they feel strong, you might not need to spend 45 minutes, an hour every single day. If you're already at a good level, maybe you've done some public speaking before. But yeah, definitely do a couple trial runs just to make sure you're not stumbling over your words and you know what you want to get across.
Yeah, absolutely. The 9th is a very competitive district. McNerney in the 9th does a principal with numbered alternates. So I was just kind of curious, were you the principal or were you a numbered alternate, or do you know where you stood with McNerney when you got the nomination?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know, and that's one aspect of the Service Academy applications that I never really fully understood. Yeah, I was never really notified.
Well, as a matter of fact, you can go back to one of our previous podcasts and find that out. So it's, we kind of talk about that. But the way that McNerney does it is he has a principal candidate that he names. That so he looks at all the candidates who get a nomination, and then he chooses his committee chooses the number one person. And as long as that person gets is what's called 3Q'd, meaning qualified academically, physical fitness and medically, they automatically get the appointment. And I think you probably would have known if you were the principal, because he probably would have told you. So it's likely you're one of the numbered alternates, and you might have been up, maybe closer to, you might have been numbered 3 or 4, or 2, 3 or 4. So that's kind of how he does it versus other members of Congress who do it open competitive, where they give the slate of 10 to the Service Academy to choose, or they just do one principal, and then competitive alternates. But McInerney does it the most restrictive in principal with numbered alternates. So, I guess he didn't tell you where you fell in the pecking order.
No, and if he did, I apologize, but I don't remember.
Well, I didn't realize it either until about 30 years after I graduated. So don't worry about that.
Okay, I've got some time still.
Yeah, you got a little bit of time. So
the important thing is you secured the nomination.
That's exactly right. So I was kind of curious as we were going through this, kind of what your district was, and how that was selected. But looks like you got a big interest in the Naval Academy from your congressional district.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, it looked like you have, in that year, you had you had your full complement of, people, 10 that had applied. So maybe because, you're by the ocean, or, you might be, maybe more of a inclination towards the Navy.
Yeah, I'm not exactly too sure. But one of my other friends that I was practicing the congressional nomination and blue and gold interviews with, I think he ended up as our valedictorian of our high school class, and he ended up going to Air Force, if I remember correctly. Right. That was the only other one that kind of rang a bell.
Yeah. Well, that's unusual to have 2 people go to the service academies from one high school. So that's shows kind of military inclination too. So it is interesting, when you look at congressional districts and competitiveness and things like that. So you obviously cleared a competitive congressional district. So that's another, certainly, something that is noteworthy in your getting your appointment.
Yeah, I had no idea. I probably would have been a lot more stressed out if you had told me that.
Yeah, maybe. So good. Well, good. So Trish, do you have anything else we want to ask him about the Scholar Athlete Leader or the nomination, process?
No, I think we can move on over to talking about life at the Naval Academy.
Okay, cool.
So Jack, what was your major when you were at Annapolis?
So I declared my major at the end of my freshman year to begin sophomore, or as it's called, youngster year. I started as an information technology major, which is, in the most simplest way to put it when people ask about it, it's computer science, but focused on not so much on the coding aspect of computer science, but more about the integration into different fields like artificial intelligence, or all these new forms of technology that are surfacing now in the 21st century. But then I ended up not performing too well in that major. So under the advice of my academic advisor, I switched over to general science, which it's kind of just a broad overview, and you get kind of thrown in the mixing pot of all the different majors. And every elective that I had the option to choose, I focused in oceanography. But general science is my listed degree.
And are there a lot of, it seems like all the service academies are pretty STEM focused in terms of the degrees available, but I was not aware of the oceanography focus. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wish I had declared that from the beginning. I actually really found that passion there in that field, kind of studying, without sounding too much like a nerd here, wave mechanics and how the ocean waves impact beaches, the littoral zones of the ocean, and the kind of the physics behind waves.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you recall your class size as when you first started, and then how many you guys graduated with?
Yes, we are class of 2020. We are one of the most unique classes that's ever been through the Naval Academy. I think we are the second smallest in history of final graduating number. I believe we started around 12 to 1300, and we were down to about, I think, 1011 was, I think, our final graduating number. I could be wrong there, plus or minus 10 or 20, but yeah, it was there were about 300 of us that didn't make it all the way through.
That's not a terrible attrition rate for the Naval Academy, or any of the academies. I think the most of the time people think that it's a lot higher than that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's what, even though it's not a very large attrition rate, it's normally much smaller, which yeah, it's you don't really expect that perspective, but
Yeah.
yeah, we were pretty small at the end there.
What do you equate that to?
There were a couple of the scandals that ended in some legal action between some of my classmates, but
Yeah.
there were some NCIS investigations, people that weren't kind of focused on the mission, the whole mission as a whole of getting through the academy and serving as an officer, a commissioned officer.
Wrong priorities in their lives.
Yep, wrong priorities. We had, your fair share of medical dropouts, ones or twos here and there. I think I had one of my classmates actually cross-commissioned into the Air Force.
Oh, they made a good decision.
Yeah, yeah. He's a traitor. He's a traitor to us. But
now,
it's all good.
Is it the same with Annapolis in terms of the other service academies, where you have up until the first day of class, your junior year, to decide that the service academy life isn't for you, and to take your credits and scot-free, transfer credits to another college? Is that the same?
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep, you have that first week of class, your junior year, you'll sign your 2-for-7 agreement, basically saying, hey, I'm going to continue. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to finish off my 2 years. So you're signing on 2 years for 7. That's describing finishing the 2 years of the academy and then your 5-year service contract after graduation. So yeah, it's the same thing. First week of junior year classes.
Okay, great. And what would you describe life like, daily life at the Naval Academy?
It was, if I could pick one word, it was a shock. I wasn't. It was a good shock. It wasn't. I'm not trying to put that in a negative connotation. It was just very different than what I was kind of expecting, and I knew it was going to be fast paced, but I didn't know it was going to be that fast paced. I really hadn't had that crazy of a kind of a work school life before.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Just living in the same place that you're quote unquote working and going to school. That's really difficult.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of the point I was going to move into. Was you kind of spend all day at school, then you come back, you do your little silly midshipman quote unquote work things, working on your fake qualifications. I'm only joking, but and then going to sleep 2 feet above where you were just grinding out homework for a couple hours every night. It was different, and I'm not saying it was detrimental to my experience there. It was just an adjustment that I had to make within myself.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same for all all of my classmates and all the other service academies. It's very different, and that's why they're so selective. They want the people that not only have the potential to be able to make that shift and get ready for life as a commissioned officer out in the fleet, but people that have the motivation and the passion to want to do that.
And how long do you think that transition took for you to really start becoming comfortable with the increased pace?
Yes, that's going to be very much on the personal level. I feel like about after my first semester of being a plebe, a freshman, after that first academic semester, I kind of figured out the rhythm with kind of the academics. So I was set. I was like, okay, these are how the class schedules work. Here's when I can schedule time to study and get work done, and still attempt to get a decent amount of sleep. And then I think it was probably about the start of my sophomore year, when I got kind of like the full picture. I'm like, okay, here now I know we've got to participate in parades. I'm doing sports too. That's when I kind of settled into the whole rhythm, not just kind of getting used to the different academic routine. So about a semester to 2 semesters.
That's not too terrible.
No, and I'm sure other people adjusted quicker.
Yeah, and I'm sure some took longer as well.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that.
Yeah, or never adjusted.
I saw it firsthand.
Yeah. Rob, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't. I'm interested in learning about who would be crazy enough to go in the Marine Corps, and then like who, or to be underneath in a submarine, and kind of how all that works. Like, how do they rank you? What's popular at the Naval Academy? What percentage is your military versus your academic that gets you the choices, locations, specialties, and things like that. So I really would love to hear, kind of how that all works.
Yeah, that's a very dynamic question. It's a very interesting one. A lot of my friends that were stats majors did studies on this, and it's very hard to study because it can swing from one side completely 180 degrees to the other side in between just class years. Just a quick example, the class of 2019, the year before me, they actually ended up having to quote unquote draft midshipmen about to be officers. They had to draft them to be in the surface warfare pipeline because there weren't enough people that listed it high up on their preferences. And then for my year, I believe they actually had to draft some submarine community folks. Yeah. So the different pieces that go into that puzzle of figuring out what your job's going to be after graduation. You'll have a completely separate service selection ranking versus your kind of academic class ranking. So you could be at bottom of the barrel in your service academy class, but have a much higher service selection ranking based on the summer trainings you do, how you perform in them. Another quick example: one of my 3 roommates commissioned as a Marine Corps pilot, and his class ranking was not. It was kind of in the middle to low middle, so it wasn't like the one of the standout ones, but he was actually very competitive for the Marine Corps billet based on his performance during his summer training down in Quantico at Leatherneck. His platoon leaders and the drill instructors down there, I'm not sure what you call them, forgive me, but they saw his performance and he really wanted to be a great Marine, and they reflected that in their little feedback thing they sent back to Annapolis, and that really helps your service selection ranking. For
midshipmen, when they're looking to potentially commission into the Marines, does everybody get, anybody who wants, do they get a shot at Leatherneck, or is that competitive?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I'm not too sure about the details there. Most people that want to get it, I'd say probably 90% of people that want to do Leatherneck get it. They have the capacity to hold a lot of people during the summer for Leatherneck, and all you have to do to qualify, I believe, is submit an application for it to your company officer at school, and then you have to take a Marine Corps PFA versus a Navy PRT physical assessment.
And yeah, that's a lot tougher with a 3-mile run, pull-ups, and things like that. So yeah, it's a tougher tougher test. So that's really interesting. I mean, with how it varies between classes, and that sort of jives with my experience is that we call it branches in the Army, that certain branches have more popularity than others. Depending on the year and things like that. So, but yeah. So, what would you say your breakout is regarding academics? And military? Is it like a 70-30 breakout? Is it a 80-20? What would you say? What would be your estimate regarding, your kind of the whole candidate score, as you might call it, in determining kind of what specialty you get?
Yeah, my best educated guess, based on just what I've seen with my classmates and the little bit that I've read about it, I'd say it's probably around that 70-30 mark. Like you have to be doing okay with your academics to get high in the pecking order to choose the jobs you want. If you want, they got to have some sort of incentive to succeed well and pursue and study for your academics, and that way you can get the first pick at the job you want. But there is that other chunk. Like I said, it's probably around a 70-30 split, where you can get quite a few points to your service selection ranking if you do very well with your military and your physical performance as well.
Yeah. What if you're an English major, or God help you, a history major? What happens with that? I mean, does that mean that is there less chance of doing certain specialties like in surface, or is that just not taken into account at all because everybody has to take engineering courses at the academy?
See, that's one of the things that when I was doing my research on the service academies that I really liked how they do that. To answer your question, there are no restrictions on majors. I've seen history majors go to be Navy SEALs. I've seen English majors go on to nuclear power school and be a submarine officer. You can really go any way you want. You just have to prove that you want to and you're going to be able to succeed in that field. But there is no, they do not look at history majors or mechanical engineers. They don't look at them any differently.
Well, that's good. Us history majors have a future in the service academies.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, good. So, okay. So, here I'm just cutting off Trish here completely here because I'm just getting going here. But why? Okay. So, I know you didn't want to be a jarhead, and you didn't want to be in a tin can underneath the water. So it makes sense to me why you want to be a surface warfare officer. So can you give me an idea of just, first of all, why you want to be a surface warfare officer, and why on earth these people would want to choose anything but being a surface warfare officer?
Yeah, well, I do have a little bit of bias. I'm loving my job so far. There was a couple of reasons why I picked surface over some of the other fields. It was actually all the way up until senior year, I was dead set on going into the aviation community and being a Navy pilot. Mm-hmm. But I actually got medically disqualified. I'm a pretty tall individual, and they took all the aviation measurements and the metrics, and they disqualified me. Just they deemed it too high of a risk to put me through the training and then have me flunk or pass out of one airframe test, and then the few ones that apparently they said I could or could not fit in. So surface. One of the great things about going to the surface warfare community out of Annapolis is the ability to pick where you will live and know that for a fact, and I'll know what platform of ship you're going to go to. So that I'm sure everyone's heard about the famous ship selection at Annapolis, where they put all the ship names up, organized by home port up on the whiteboard, and you get called up. You can pick it off the board and then go meet your new shipmates out in the stands. That was definitely one of my incentives there to pick surface warfare, and just having the ability to jump immediately into into a leadership position. Unlike the other service pipelines, they have some pretty lengthy training and classroom times. Surface warfare is the shortest. It's the quickest way to get onto an operational unit and start honing your leadership abilities with, one-on-one with actual sailors, junior sailors, and leading directly with them.
How quick do you get out of? How quick?
Yeah, so I graduated in May of 2020. I took some leave to go spend some time with my family. And then I'm PCS moved. I moved all the way from Annapolis out to San Diego in August. I took my first class, and then I reported on board my ship that December temporarily. And I had one more school to go to, but the first time I stepped foot on my ship was December of 2020 after graduating in May of 2020.
So that was really only 4 months from August to December when you were reporting.
That's exactly true. I was there temporarily in December, and then I had one more short 3-week school to go to in February that I got back from recently. And as of March of this year, I am permanently attached to my ship. I don't have any more follow-on schools to attend.
Now, the submarine community, is that similar as far as being able to pick your submarine?
As far as I know, another one of my roommates did choose to be a bubblehead, as they're called, and I don't. They have their own special way of doing it. They're everything's top secret with them, but they do theirs at the Nuclear Power Training Command down in Charleston, South Carolina. I believe they do have some say, but it's not as free. And it's not as much your choice as the surface community is, just because submarine crews are so small, and the job specialties and the numbers of officers and enlisted that they have to have on these boats at any one time is very volatile. They need people certain places, so there is I've heard it's a preference, not necessarily a selection like surface is.
And are you currently supervising sailors?
Yes, I was in a kind of a temporary holding job because we had actually an overflow of junior officers, recent graduates from Officer Candidate School, ROTC, and the Surface Academy. But as of this week, I got moved into a division, and I am one-on-one with my division of about 20 to 30 sailors.
Well, congratulations! That's an exciting advancement.
Yeah.
It's daunting the first day, and then after that, if you take care of those sailors, they'll love you. So it's been a great feeling so far.
Well, that was a really great breakout. I really appreciated, and I can see why you went surface, because, the ability to be able to pick your ship you want to be on as well as your location. That's a big deal.
It is. Yep. I knew I wanted to go back to my home state here. I didn't really enjoy Norfolk, Virginia as much as I thought I would when I went there for training. And you really can't beat sunny San Diego.
Yeah. I think if I was in your spot, I would have done the exact same thing you're doing. I mean, honestly, the idea of being able to kind of dictate those kind of terms, make it, compelling to want to, do surface, I think.
Absolutely, right. I second that.
It's one of the few times in the military where the decision is fully under your control.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good. Well, Jack, we don't want to keep you for too long here. So the last question we have for you is, what advice would you tell an upcoming high school senior applying to a service academy for the class of, can you believe, 2026?
Wow, that number still sounds,
listen,
sounds weird when I hear about it.
Listen, if you think that's bad for you, it sounds much worse for me. Okay, I just want to let you know.
Yeah, I respect that. I'm still wet behind the ears.
Yeah.
I think to encompass it all, it's really tough to put it in one piece of advice, but and this is, you can branch this out many different ways, but simply just try to be the most well-rounded candidate you can be. You don't have to feel pressured to be the number one person in any particular field, but if you can demonstrate a pursuit of excellence in multiple fields, going back to your guys' acronym, making an effort to be a good scholar, making an effort to be a good athlete and a leader in those athletics, and then a leader in your community. If you're putting the time and the effort in those areas, and you have a way of showing that, and people will back you up, you're not going to have a problem. And just to go along with that, keeping everything organized is a huge thing. That's something I struggled with, that I had to figure out real quick when I was applying. Finding a way to keep everything organized, use calendars, use reminders on your phone if you have to, for all the important deadlines and everything. You don't have to feel pressured to be the number one in each field. If you are, it's great, and that's obviously a big checkbox. But branching yourself as far out into as many different fields as you possibly can, while keeping your sanity, will boost your application far above the rest.
That's fantastic advice. And I really love that keyword, pursuit of excellence. And I think everything that you've told us has pretty much embodied that in the time leading up to your application, as well as, when you attended and now. So excited to see where you go.
Yeah, I am too. I can tell you it's the cat's out of the bag. I'll be headed out to Japan here in the next year and a half or so. Our ship is going out. We're moving out to Japan, so that's where I'll be going. That's
exciting. Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's very exciting. A little scary, but I'm ready.
You are.
Well, great. Well, look, great, Jack. Well, look, Jack, it was great to have you on today, and definitely learned a lot about the Naval Academy and how you became a surface warfare officer, and really just reinforcing all the things that we really teach our candidates in order to be successful at getting into a service academy. So we thank you very much for coming on today, and it was great.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm willing to share my contact information with anyone that wants to reach out with me directly. That's one of the things I pride myself on, is always willing to kind of be a direct listening ear to anyone that needs it. So I'll see if you guys can put my contact information out if you so wish.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks, Jack, and we'll good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We'll see everybody next week. Can't wait to talk to you guys more about Service Academy admissions.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Gain Service Academy Admission podcast. Connect with us at gainserviceacademyadmission.com. Love this episode of the podcast? Head over to iTunes, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.